love coming up to the Discovery Place in Burns, Tennessee. I've been coming up here for over 15 years. I try to come up here once a month to do a little drawing, and my drawing is constantly changing. Been doing this drawing for some 20 plus years, and we kind of feel like we're the Jeffersons. We're moving on up. We've got this little handout that I passed out to everybody, and we're going to go over this handout, and it's basically what we got drawn on the board up here. What I want us to do, we're fixing to open our session, meeting with a moment of silence followed by a serenity prayer. But before we do that, I want to break this serenity prayer down, because a lot of times we just say it, or I did when I first got here, and I didn't get the inner meaning behind it. But what we're going to do is we're going to ask God, and that's God as you understand Him, and God as you understood Him, however you choose to look at it, to grant us a serenity. So peace of mind is very valuable to me today. To accept the things I cannot change. One of the things I can't change is this world's not my home. I'm just passing through, and I'm just passing through one day at a time, and one day my game clock is going to end. And my scorecard is going to read what it reads. And the people we've hurt and the people that's hurt us, we can't do anything about it. But what we want to do is try to make it right from this day forward. I'm going to encourage us to look at it from an optimistic point of view. The money you spend in your lifetime you spent, you're not going to get it back. The time you spent out there doing whatever you were doing with whoever you were doing, whatever you were doing with, that's gone. And time is a gift, not a threat. Yesterday's gone. We don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow or not. But if we do a good job of living today, which is what we want to try to do, that's one of my biggest objectives, one of my biggest goals, is try to do a good job of living today, hurt no one with my words or actions. Because yesterday's gone, we don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow, so we want to try to stay focused, live in the moment, do the next right thing, and see what happens. Does that sound like a good game plan?
Yes, sir.
We want to have the courage to change the things that we can, and one of the biggest things that I had to change was my attitude or my mindset, the way I looked at things, what my motives were, and presently are, priorities, ambitions, goals, objectives, values, and desires. And the wisdom to know the difference between the things I can do something about and the things I can't do something about. How many of y'all have a hard time not trying to control other people? I just wanted y'all to think about that. We're going to break that down just a little bit, Well, let's do this serenity prayer and get on with our session. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for the day. Isn't that what we say? One day at a time. Just for the day. I want to go to page 317 in the big book, to the third paragraph. And I want to talk about the power of choice just for a second. This ties in with our morning meditation this morning. For that guy that we read in that story on page 420, he says, I just do whatever's right in front of me to do. Y'all remember when we read that?
Yeah.
In other words, let's just do the next right thing and see what happens. Third paragraph, it says, when I am willing, everybody with me? When I am willing to do the right thing, I am rewarded. How many of y'all like rewards? With an inner peace. How many of y'all like to have some inner peace and inner freedom? No amount of liquor could ever provide. When I'm unwilling to do the right thing, I become restless, irritable, and discontent. It is always my choice. Through the 12 steps, I have been granted the gift of choice. It says, I am no longer at the mercy of a disease that tells me the only answer is to drink. If willingness is the key to unlock the gates of hell, it is action that opens the door so that we may walk freely among the living. Now, how many of y'all want to walk freely among the living and not be in no self-constructed prison? What I want to do is I want y'all to get your hand out. Look at the top of it where it says the power of choice. And motives is on both sides of that. The guy that was used to sponsor me into this deal, he was real big on motives. He said if you'll check your motives and your thoughts and your words and your actions, it won't be hard to see and understand what the driving force is behind you, inside you. Does that make sense? Motives, priorities, and ambitions. Right up above motives, or on the back of the page, if you want to see where some motives are, it's in the big book, page 86. And then the 12 and 12, 94 and 95. Big time 94 talks about the motives. Priorities, ambitions. Y'all know the story in chapter 3 about the man of 30 who was ambitious to succeed in life? His ambition to succeed in life was more powerful than his desire to drink, so he stopped. 25 years he was bone dry and built his materialistic empire. At the age of 55, he was a robust man, and he retired. In a couple of months, he was in a nut house, and in 4 years, he was dead. And it says all the means that money could buy was at his disposal. But money can't buy this gift of God, the gift of choice. I want to read this by daily using the method of the coaches. I want to say this. My dream and my desire was to be a coach. I graduated high school in 1970. I was voted outstanding high school athlete by the coaches. I played linebacker and end on the football team, played on all the special teams. I was point guard on the basketball team and starting pitcher on the baseball team. And I got sidetracked. And I'm not going to tell you how I got sidetracked because our story's just closed in a general way what we used to be like, okay? But I went down a wrong trail for a long period of time and paid a mighty high price for a low-class lifestyle. Y'all know what I'm talking about? But I'm not the only one that paid that price. My mom and dad paid the price. My brothers and my sister paid the price. My wife and my children paid the price for the choices that I'd made. And what I did in December of 1996, I got involved with a couple of guys that was taking messages to the jailhouse down in Hernando, Mississippi. I didn't have the message inside me that I got inside me today, but I made myself available. And in the spring of 97, I started going with another couple of guys up to a treatment center up in Memphis, Tennessee. I live in South Haven, Mississippi, right on the edge of Memphis in the northwest corner of Mississippi. And in the fall of 1999, I started going to a prison down in Holly Springs, Mississippi. with some men, and we started doing the A&D, class down there using the 12 steps. And then we did that meeting down there with the prisoners. I was involved in it from the fall of '99 to the spring of 2004. Now, what I didn't know then that I know today was I was being equipped to be able to do what I do today. But it's always been the love of my life to be a coach, and today I get to be a spiritual life coach, is the way I view myself. And what I want y'all to consider today is y'all view me as being the coach, and we going to the locker room and it's halftime. And what we want to do is we want to review the first half of our game, not in a morbid way, not in a destructive way, but in a constructive way, so we can learn from our mistakes, capitalize on our mistakes, take advantage of them, and not let them take advantage of us, so we can grow into mature players in the game of life. Does that sound like a good game plan? Mm-hmm. So we've all made a lot of mistakes, but go back to the second line. By using the method of the coaches, we take our personal inventory and set right any new mistakes as we clean up the past. How many of y'all believe that that would be very valuable on a daily basis to set right the new mistakes, take our own inventory instead of taking everybody else's inventory as we clean up the wreckage of our past? Y'all think that'd be a healthy practice? You know it would. It changed my life. I can't tell you in words how much it changed my life. It didn't just change my life. My wife will have 22 years of sobriety the 29th of this month. My son will have 19 years of sobriety the 22nd of this month. I got a brother that'll have 16 years of sobriety in December. I got a first cousin, I don't know how much she's got, about 12 years I think. But this program has transformed not just our lives, but our whole family's lives, and a whole lot of friends' lives that didn't know how to transform until we got involved and we started passing on what had been so freely given to us. It says, our next statement is, our motives play a major role in helping us determine what our real priorities, ambitions, objectives, goals, values, and desires have been and presently are. This simple method can help us break old, unhealthy habits and develop new, healthy habits. Does that sound like a good plan? Mm-hmm. Practicing daily. Y'all see that? Yep. Practicing daily to spot, admit, and correct our mistakes will help us grow into maturity. How many of y'all believe that that will help us grow into maturity? So I know the day is early, but what I want y'all to do so we can put it into practical application so we can get a inner meaning of what we're trying to do on a daily basis, I want y'all to go back to when you woke up this morning and think about what was on your mind and start thinking about reflecting your activities, what your attitude was, what you did next. Just review your own feeling. Y'all see the simplicity of it? I'm going to ask you a question. What do you see? Is that a good question? I want you to do the same thing for yesterday. You need to start last night right before you retired. Review your game day film. or you can start yesterday morning when you woke up and review your game day film. My favorite time to do this is when football season starts, and do it on Sunday night and go back to the last 48 hours. Here's what I want you to do. Go back to the last 7 days that you lived before you got to your treatment center, this discovery place, and start reviewing that film. Then go back to a month prior to you coming into this treatment center. Look on the left side of the checklist. Personal inventory, daily checklist, weekly checklist, monthly checklist, yearly checklist. What did you spend your time doing during that time? What kind of activities were you involved in? What kind of fellowship was you involved in? What kind of relationships were you involved in? Are those fair questions? Is that not a good way to test yourself? To see what's really going on? Checklist. How much money did you spend doing all those activities with whoever you was involved with, doing whatever you were doing, or the fellowship you was around? Remember, we're not doing this in a morbid way. We're doing this in a constructive way, so we can learn, so we can grow, and so we can mature. What kind of thoughts did you have going on in your mind this morning, yesterday, a week prior to you getting here, a month prior to you getting here, last New Year's, last Christmas, last Thanksgiving? Just keep reflecting back and review your film. That's the simplicity of the steps. This is how we find out how our life became unmanageable, which is the second half of the first steps. Y'all see the power behind it? Your thoughts, your words. What kind of words has been coming out of your mouth for a long period of time? I used to make cutting remarks here and cutting remarks here and cutting remarks here and cutting remarks here. And I give you one isolated case. I left Mississippi and went to Nashville, Tennessee on a mission, and I had a plan. I'm not going to tell you what my mission was, and I'm not going to tell you what my plan was. I was 38 years old, and my daddy was 72 years old. I called my daddy that Friday morning to tell him where I was and what I was doing. And my 72-year-old dad said, "Son, you don't know what you're doing." And I said, "Oh yeah, Daddy, I know what I'm doing." He said, "Son, you don't know what you're doing." I said, "Daddy, I know exactly what I'm doing. If you're worried about me, pray." Except I said it a lot sharper than that. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You know what my 72-year-old dad told me? He said, son, me and your mama have been up all night long praying for you. Now, how many times have our mamas and daddies been up all night long praying for us? I mean, it's not a pretty picture, and books is almost none of us like the self-searching and the leveling of our pride. But we had to do it. Y'all see where I'm coming from? That's just one isolated case and one lonely night for my mom and dad. And what I didn't know is my dad had called 3 of my brothers and my business partner and had asked them to come to Nashville, Tennessee on a rescue mission to rescue me before something else happened. And they succeeded. They come up and intercepted me and carried me back down to Mississippi. And a whole lot more happened after that. But I'm not going to get into it. But my case in point is, how many times has it happened for you? And how many times have you been used as an instrument for this nature of evil? They used you like they did me. I'm speaking for myself. He used me to steal my mama's peace of mind, my daddy's peace of mind, my brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and the list goes on. He used me not only to kill myself from within, but to kill them too, and he used me to destroy with his power, with his game plan, because I was operating under his system, a materialistic world. Y'all understand what I'm talking about? Look right to the right of that where it says lessons learned today can be carried over into tomorrow. Y'all see that? This is all about duplication. If we learned lessons today from the former mistakes that we made, and we carry those lessons over into tomorrow and duplicate the process, this time next week we're going to have a lot of lessons learned. And I believe this day there's going to be a lot of lessons learned by y'all because of the method of the coaches that's being presented here today. Does that make sense? Drop down below that. What we feed our minds or focus on, we become. What we become, we transmit. What we transmit, we receive. In other words, we got some bad, unhealthy habits versus the good, healthy habits. The desires of the natural versus the desires of the spirit. We can either look at things from a human point of view or we can look at it from a spiritual point of view. But this program is all about spiritual awareness. Does that make sense? Right down below nourish, you can have a negative attitude or you can have a positive attitude. Y'all believe that? You can focus on what's good today, what's bad today, and have a bad day. Just like what we read this morning in our meditation on page 419. We can focus on what's good today, and we can have a good day. And what that means to me is, in simplicity, I'm grateful I still got 2 legs, 2 feet, 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 ears. I'm grateful I'm not in the penitentiary doing life without. I'm grateful I'm not in the jailhouse. I'm grateful I didn't kill nobody while I was out there in them drunken stupors. So what are you grateful for? What can we focus on what we've been spared from? I was spared many near-death experiences. I can't speak for y'all, but I was. Many near-death experiences. And my brother down in Oxford, Mississippi, that's 11 months younger than me, he gave me my medallion one time. I don't remember which one it was. But he said, we didn't know when we was gonna get that phone call about John, but we knew we was gonna get it one day, and it was either he had been killed or he had killed somebody else. Now, how much ammunition was I giving that nature of evil to my family members? And the only answer I can say is way too much. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't know how not to. Because of the lifestyle that I was caught up in. And my mind was so warped because I was following the natural desires that came from my God-given instincts, and I was misusing them, and they had became my liabilities instead of my assets. So in the book on page 66, it says, we turn back to the list, a grudge list, for it held the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. And that's, instead of looking at it from the worldly angle, we start looking at it from the spiritual angle. Does that make sense? And look at the old dark eye and the old sad face. How many of us have been miserable and sad and mad and in bondage for a long time and not know how to get out? Y'all know what I'm saying? And when we like that, those words that come out of our mouth, they're not healthy, they're not wholesome, they're unhealthy and unwholesome. If you talk anything like I did. Today I want the words that come out of my mouth to be rich and meaningful. Look down there below, word hurt and words heal. What about our actions? How many of y'all ever believed the body is being a vessel? Like a cargo ship? How much drugs and alcohol have you carried in your cargo ship? From the worldly point of view. What kind of cargo you got in your ship from a spiritual point of view? Y'all with me? So the body is the vessel, which means in simplicity, we're either going to be an agent. This is what I believe for your consideration. I don't want to come off like I know everything, okay? Because I don't. But I've learned a lot. We're either going to be an agent or a player or a representative on this team. Are we going to be a player or an agent or a representative on this team? Are y'all with me? And what keeps us from viewing it from that point of view is we get caught up in social distinctions. I want y'all to go to page 161 in the big book, and I want to read about it. Page 161. In that paragraph where it says, but life among us, y'all see that? It's more than, it's more than, it's more than. Y'all see that? Drop down a little bit halfway down where it says social distinctions. Y'all see that? Right in the middle of the paragraph. Y'all see it? Social distinctions. Do y'all believe it exists in our rooms? Do you believe it exists in our world? Petty rivalries. How many of us get bent out of shape about petty rivalries and our instincts get threatened? And jealousies. These are laughed out of countenance. Y'all see that? Here's why. Being wrecked in the same vessel. You know what the body is? It's a vessel. being restored and united under one God, with hearts and minds attuned to the welfare of others. The things that matter so much to some people no longer signify much to us. How could they? How could the social distinctions and the petty rivalries mean so much to us? Look what we've been spared from. Look where we stand right now. This side over here wants us to be united, hearts and minds, attuned to the welfare of others. This side over here wants us to have some quality faith. This side over here wants us to have hope. And it's all grounded in love. Does that make sense? Social distinctions that causes divisions, from my point of view, for your consideration. I'm not an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. I'm not a drug addict, I'm an alcoholic. Well, I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. I'm not a Baptist, I'm a Methodist. I'm not a Methodist, I'm a Pentecostal. I'm not a Pentecostal, I'm a Presbyterian. Well, I'm none of them. You understand that? Well, I'm a Tennessee Volunteer. I'm a Kentucky Wildcat. I'm a Buckeye from Ohio. I'm an Arkansas Razorback. I'm an Ole Miss Rebel. I'm a Mississippi State Bulldog. And then you got some heckler over here saying, roll, tide, roll. And you know what those social distinctions and those petty rivalries and those jealousies do? They keep twisted, broken, distorted relationships escalated. And family members don't get together at Christmas on account of it. They don't get together at Thanksgiving on account of it. Some people even go to the penitentiary on account of it. Some people go to the graveyard because of it. And it's what I call a generational curse. It's been passed down from one generation to the next generations because of the worldly idols we have. Because of the colors or uniform somebody wears. Or a playing field that somebody plays on. Or the color of somebody's skin. Or whether they from America or Mexico or Iraq or Afghanistan. And the list goes on and on and on. Y'all see the traps? What do y'all think about all that? Kept us messed up for a long time. All right, now let's go down to the bottom on both sides. Notice that the little bottom deal is drawn like a house, like an A-frame house. Y'all see that A-frame house? Same thing on the right side. Bottom line, drugs, alcohol, sex, rock and roll, whatever your case may be. How many of us can agree that it led us down the road to a perverted lifestyle? Are we all in agreement? And I'm going to say on the right side, only by the grace of God have we been delivered from that perverted lifestyle. That's my view for your consideration. My belief is it came through disobedience versus obedience. I want y'all to go to page 174 in the 12 and 12.
Page?
174. in that paragraph, it's where it says, at this juncture, y'all see that? Y'all see what I'm talking about? On page 174? That first full paragraph? Drop 7 lines down where it says, unless each member, y'all see that? Unless each member follows to the best of his ability, y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
174? Unless each member follows, y'all ever heard this, rarely have we seen a person fail who is thoroughly followed?
Yep.
Unless each member follows to the best of his ability, our suggested 12 steps to recovery, he almost certainly signs his own death warrant. Now that sounds real attractive, don't it? His drunkenness and disillusionments are not penalties inflicted by people in authority. They result from his personal disobedience to spiritual principles. Drop 3 lines down in the next paragraph where it says, so we of AA do obey spiritual principles. Y'all see that? And here's why. First, because we must, and ultimately, we love the kind of life such obedience brings. Great suffering and great love are our disciplinarians. We need no others. But what I get out of that is pain I obeyed. I couldn't take no more. That booty pain hit me so hard I couldn't take no more. The heartaches and the disappointments that I had going on inside me. You understand what I'm saying? So the dark side, or the nature of evil, wants us to be disobedient to spiritual principles. In other words, the dark side don't want us to be honest, it wants us to be dishonest. The dark side don't want us to be willing to do something about it, it wants us to rebel against this offer that's being made to us. Does that make sense? Right up above disobedience, on the left side, you got pride, fear, ego. 12 and 12 says pride leads to self-justification and is always spurred by conscious or unconscious fear. It says pride is a chief block to true progress. That's on page 48 and 49 if you want to cross-reference it. We're not going to go there. And on page 53 in the 12 and 12, it talks about our ego. It is from our, I tell you what, just go to page 53, I want to read that. In the 12 and 12, little book. Where it starts off with, it is from, y'all see that?
53.
53. It is from our twisted relations with family, friends, and society that many of us have suffered the most. We have been especially stupid and stubborn about our twisted relations. The primary fact that we fail to recognize is our inability to form a true partnership with any of those about us. Next statement, our egomania digs 2 disastrous pitfalls. Either we insist on dominating the people we know, or we insist on leaning on them far too much. If we depend on people, they will sooner or later fail us, for they are human too and cannot possibly meet our incessant demands. And this way our insecurity grows and festers. It grows and festers. And you know what it does when it grows and festers? It makes us be restless, irritable, and discontented. It makes us wear our feelings on our shoulders. when we habitually try to manipulate others to our own willful desires, they revolt and resist us heavily. And reality is, this is what happened to us. We develop hurt feelings, a sense of persecution, and a desire to retaliate, which means I'm gonna get even with you. And we try to fight to have our own way. And the more we fight to try to have our own way, the worse matters get. Y'all agree? And all this, in reality, what it does is it puts us in a self-constructed prison. Y'all see that up there? On the right side, it says right action is the key that's going to unlock those doors to get us out of that self-constructed prison. Self-constructed prison is mentioned on page 124 in the 12 and 12, and right action is the key that's mentioned on page 125 in the 12 and 12. Pathway of bondage versus a pathway of freedom. Third step prayer says, relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. That's on page 63 in the big book. Right up above that on the left side, we can be a victim by blaming others for what has befell us, and we can continue to fight to try to have our own way. On the right side, we can have victory by surrendering and submitting. Does that make sense? And at the top of it, it all goes back to the power of choice. So the instincts on the left side, that's kind of like a taproot. The taproot of pride, which represents a tree of destruction. This is the pathway of destruction. When you're operating on instinct, as a rule, you're grumbling, you're complaining, and you're fault finding. And when the instincts inside me collide with the instincts inside you, no peace can be had because we're operating in a three-dimensional world, mind, body, and emotion. Does that make sense? And when we get into the fourth dimension, or the way the book puts it, when we get reborn, we enter the world of the spirit. And our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. In the spiritual realm, which is what I call spiritual awareness, how the nature of evil operates versus how the nature of good operates. Nature of evil, from my point of view, operates from a human point of view, and he wants us to evaluate others from human standards, and he don't want us to see that it's his nature or the guiding forces of evil that's operating inside human beings that's causing the damage. He wants us to look at the vessel instead of the source of power operating the vessel. Does that make sense? See, this is real simple and it's real deep. Look on the right side. How many of us have jealousy and selfish ambition in our heart? We're jealous because of what other people get to do that we don't get to do. We're jealous of what other people have that we don't have. Whether it be healthy relationships with a family members or the financial means or whatever. And we have this selfishness and self-centeredness and this selfish ambitions that's really killing us and destroying us from the inside out. Does that make sense? Now go up the left side of the tree of destruction. If y'all will, put your thumb under hatred and put your right thumb under love. And we're going to walk up the ladder, okay? Just, if you will, just hold it like this. It'll be real easy, just like a ladder, okay? And we're going to walk up that ladder, which is really going to be the 11-step prayer. Where there's hatred, y'all see that? Mm-hmm. I may bring love. And what I want to say is everybody's going to bring something to the table, and it's either going to be wholesome and healthy or it's going to be unwholesome and unhealthy. Y'all agree with that? Now the nature Evil wants us to bring hatred. The nature of light wants us to bring love. Y'all believe that? I believe that. Go up the ladder. Wrong versus forgiveness. In the fifth step, it says, admit it to God, to herself, and to another human being the exact nature. Did y'all hear that? Admit it to God, to herself, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So what we're really trying to do is expose the nature of our wrongs. And if it's the nature of our wrongs, then it's not this nature over here, so it has but one alternative, and that's to be this nature over here. Does that make sense? Now this nature over here wants us to focus in on the wrongs. This nature over here wants us to forgive the wrongs no matter what was said or done. How many of y'all believe that forgiveness is healthy? How many of y'all believe that unforgiveness is unhealthy? Which side wants us to be sick and which side wants us to be healthy? This side over here don't want us to get well. This side over here wants us to get well so we can show others and help others how we received help, so we can share what we received to them. Does that make sense? All right, go up the ladder. Where there's discord, I may bring harmony. How many times in your lifetime have you brought discord instead of harmony? Now an opportunity for us to reverse the roles. We can bring harmony where there had been discord. And a lot of times we're the one that caused the discord with our words and our actions. Go up the ladder. Where there's error, I may bring truth. I walked in error for a long time. Today I'm trying to walk in the truth. Where there's doubt, I may bring faith. How many of y'all have brought a lot of doubt and fear to your family members because of the lifestyle that you live? Now how many of y'all want to turn your life around so they can have faith in the prayers that they've been praying for a long, long time, that you would turn your life around? How many of y'all want to give them something to work with so they can have peace? Where there is despair, I may bring hope. I'm going to say this, you're going to bring something to the table. It's either going to be healthy or unhealthy. Where there are shadows, I may bring light. How many of us brought a lot of darkness on ourselves and on other people? Where there is sadness, I bring joy. How many of us caused a whole lot of people to be miserable and sad and in bondage because of the words and the actions that we did? Instead of feeling guilt and full of shame, how about depending upon God's perfect forgiveness? Does that sound like a good plan? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to page 116 in the 12 and 12. We're going to read part of a paragraph. It's got some D's in it, and then we're going to take a break. Does that sound like a plan? How many of y'all believe life and death is a serious game? How many of y'all believe that this side over here wants us to be happy, joyous, and free, and this side over here wants us to be miserable, sad, and in bondage? How many of y'all ready to break those chains? So we come to the discovery place in that big paragraph on 116. And here's what I believe. I can speak for myself. Every day that goes by, I develop a little bit more. I discover a little bit more. And I learn how to depend upon a little bit more. So it says, when we develop still more. How many of y'all have been developing since you've been here? Well, we want to continue, okay? When we developed still more, we discovered That's why we're here at this discovery place. We discovered the best possible source of emotional stability to be God himself. Now, if you ain't got there, don't worry about it. We're going to get there if you'll stay with us. That's what I believe with all my heart. We're going to find all this stuff out. We found that dependence. We found that dependence, that's a big word. Matter of fact, 12 and 12 says belief means reliance, not defiance. We found that dependence upon his perfect justice. We found that dependence upon his perfect forgiveness. And we found that dependence upon his perfect love was healthy. How many of y'all believe that's healthy? How many of y'all believe this side over here don't want you to depend on none of that? Don't want you to develop, don't want you to discover, but because it don't want you to find out all this stuff, and it wants you to keep you in a state of mind of contempt prior to investigation based on what you heard or what you saw way back down here in the first half of the game. Does that make sense? If we really depended upon God, we couldn't very well play God to our fellows, nor would we feel the urge wholly to rely on human protection and care. These were the new attitudes, I like that word new, which is a mindset, that finally brought many of us an inner strength. I like the inner strength. I know who I'm plugged in here and the source of power. Brought many of us an inner strength and peace that could not be deeply shaken by the shortcomings of others or by any calamity not of our own making. Now, don't that sound good? Develop, discover, depend, so we will not be deeply shaken by the shortcomings of others or ourselves. Let's take a break.